Chapter 28 of On the Duties of the Clergy, Book the Second. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On the Duties of the Clergy by St. Ambrose, Book the Second, Chapter 28. Mercy must be freely shown, even though it brings an odium of its own. With regard to this, reference is made to the well-known story about the sacred vessels which were broken up by Ambrose to pay for the redemption of captives, and very beautiful advice is given about the right use of the gold and silver which the Church possesses. Next, after showing from the action of Holy Lawrence what are the true treasures of the Church, certain rules are laid down which ought to be observed in melting down and employing for such uses the consecrated vessels of the Church. It is a very great incentive to mercy to share in others' misfortunes, to help the needs of others as far as our means allow, and sometimes even beyond them. For it is better for mercy's sake to take up a case or to suffer odium rather than to show hard feeling. So I once brought odium on myself because I broke up the sacred vessels to redeem captives, a fact that could displease the Arians. Not that it displeased them as an act, but as being a thing in which they could take hold of something for which to blame me. Who can be so hard, cruel, iron-hearted, as to be displeased because a man is redeemed from death, or a woman from barbarian impurities, things that are worse than death, or boys and girls and infants from the pollution of idols, whereby through fear of death they were defiled? Although we did not act thus without good reason, yet we have followed it up among the people so as to confess and to add again and again that it was far better to preserve souls than gold for the Lord. For he who sent the apostles without gold also brought together the churches without gold. The Church has gold, not to store up, but to lay out, and to spend on those who need. What necessity is there to guard what is of no good? Do we not know how much gold and silver the Assyrians took out of the temple of the Lord? Is it not much better that the priest should melt it down for the sustenance of the poor, if other supplies fail, than that a sacrilegious enemy should carry it off and defile it? Would not the Lord himself say, "Why didst thou suffer so many needy to die of hunger? Surely thou hadst gold. Thou shouldst have given them sustenance. Why are so many captives brought on the slave market, and why are so many unredeemed left to be slain by the enemy? It had been better to preserve living vessels than gold ones." To this no answer could be given. For what wouldst thou say? I feared that the temple of God would need its ornaments? He would answer, the sacraments need not gold, nor are they proper to gold only, for they are not bought with gold. The glory of the sacraments is the redemption of captives. Truly they are precious vessels, for they redeem men from death. That indeed is the true treasure of the Lord, which effects what his blood effected. Then indeed is the vessel of the Lord's blood recognized, when one sees in either redemption, so that the chalice redeems from the enemy those whom his blood redeemed from sin. How beautifully it is said, when long lines of captives are redeemed by the Church, "These Christ has redeemed. Behold, the gold that can be tried, behold the useful gold, behold the gold of Christ, which frees from death, behold the gold whereby modesty is redeemed and chastity is preserved." These then I preferred to hand over to you as free men, rather than to store up the gold. This crowd of captives, this company surely is more glorious than the sight of cups. The gold of the Redeemer ought to contribute to this work, so as to redeem those in danger. I recognize the fact that the blood of Christ not only glows in cups of gold, but also by the office of redemption has impressed upon them the power of the divine operation. Such gold the holy martyr Lawrence preserved for the Lord, for when the treasures of the Church were demanded from him, he promised that he would show them. On the following day he brought the poor together. When asked where the treasures were, which he had promised, he pointed to the poor, saying, "These are the treasures of the Church." And truly they were treasures in whom Christ lives, in whom there is faith in him. so too the Apostle says, "We have this treasure in earthen vessels." What greater treasures has Christ than those in whom he says he himself lives? For thus it is written, "I was hungry, and ye gave me to eat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me to drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in." And again, "What thou didst to one of these, thou didst it unto me." What better treasures has Jesus than those in which he loves to be seen? These treasures Lawrence pointed out and prevailed, for the persecutors could not take them away. Jehoiakim, who preserved his gold during the siege and spent it not in providing food, saw his gold carried off and himself led into captivity. Lawrence, who preferred to spend the gold of the church on the poor rather than to keep it in hand for the persecutor, received the sacred crown of martyrdom for the unique and deep-sighted vigour of his meaning. Or was it perhaps said to holy Lawrence, "Thou shouldst not spend the treasures of the church, or sell the sacred vessels"? It is necessary that everyone should fill this office with genuine good faith and clear-sighted forethought. If anyone derives profit from it for himself, it is a crime, but if he spends the treasures on the poor, or redeems captives, he shows mercy. For no one can say, "Why does the poor man live?" None can complain that captives are redeemed. None can find fault because a temple of the Lord is built. None can be angry because a plot of ground has been enlarged for the burial of the dead. In these three ways it is allowable to break up, melt down, or sell even the sacred vessels of the church. It is necessary to see that the mystic cup does not go out of the church, lest the service of the sacred chalice should be turned over to base uses. Therefore vessels were first sought for in the church, which had not been consecrated to such holy uses. Then broken up and afterwards melted down, they were given to the poor in small payments, and were also used for the ransom of captives. But if new vessels fail, or those which never seem to have been used for such a holy purpose, then, as I have already said, I think that all might be put to this use without irreverence. End of chapter 28.